let me do a little intro real quick. So this young lady has been with us over a little bit over a year. Now, when she got started with us, I didn't know her. I met her by way of a friend of ours, mutual friend, Kyle Stearns. And when they got started, her and her husband, they asked me 1,000,001 questions, which I love because Andy has always taught me that the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life. And so they were young, sharp, asked real good questions. But here's the thing I love about it is they didn't do it right away, but they did their diligence and they came back and got after it. Now, Valerie Taylor and her husband, Brandion, they won the trip her first full year at the Alliance. She's been with us a little bit over a year, but her first full year, we were in Ireland. Actually, this time last month, we were in Ireland hanging out together, seeing God's green earth. And so I'm going to introduce my guest, Valerie, but let me just share this with you real quick, okay? Valerie, for this year, from January 1 until currently, has sold 153 applications. That's the most apps in my whole organization for a total of $89,814 of issue paid production. So yes, she won it last year, but she has not let up. She's hitting her stride in her groove. This is my guest, Valerie Taylor. Welcome to the call, Valerie.
Thank you, Marcus. So glad to be here. Glad to be on the TWC. This is going to be great. I'm excited to just kind of share my experience and, just chat with you guys a little bit.
It's great to have you here. So I told him a little bit about the background, but high level, tell them about your family, Brandion, the kids, the boys, and then tell them how you found us. And also, because I think people need to hear this too, what you were doing before you found us and when you switched over, the fear in that, because I know you were giving up a lot. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So my husband, Brandion, and I have two boys, Nathan and Nolan. Nathan will be 9 actually next week, and Nolan will be 2 in June. So they're growing fast. But when we got started, and actually before we got started, you mentioned Kyle. So a family friend, he introduced us to the business April of 2021. So I was pregnant with Nolan at the time, and I was actually studying to get my project management certification, which is not an easy certification to get by any means. So when he approached us about it, I was like, I can't do this right now. I'm pregnant. I'm studying for this. Like, no, this is not the time. Fast forward a little bit. I actually got a great job in project management, a nice title bump, raise, the whole 9 yards. Like, it was going to be great, right? We were like, okay, new baby, new job, new house, like we balling now. So it was really good. But two weeks in the job, my boss, she was on vacation my first 2 weeks, and I got new baby at home, and I was completely stressed out. Like, it just was not what I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I was miserable. Like, Brandion saw me in tears maybe like 2 or 3 times. I don't know. And he was just like, no, this isn't going to work. We don't have to wait for, something bad to happen. Like, let's take control of your future and make a change. Like, we have options. What is the point of working so hard to make someone else's dream come true when you can work just as hard and have all your own dreams come true? So we were like, okay, let's give Kyle a call back. And that's when we got on the phone with him. We got on the phone with you. We asked all those questions, and, you guys answered our questions, and it was great. So we were like, let me do this. Like, I quit my job. So during my last 2 weeks on the job, I was studying to get my license. I got licensed, and I was very afraid. I was extremely afraid. And I know a lot of this call is supposed to be about fear. And I definitely was feeling afraid. I've always been in the corporate world, and to literally just quit your job and go from, 2 salaries that are above 6 figures to just 1 and then a growing business, it was definitely a scary time for us. So yeah, I'm glad that Kyle brought the opportunity to us, and that we met you, and that we were able to really, just jump in. But so far it's been great, and, it was hard. It's still hard, but, we're pushing and we're going.
Got it. So let me ask you a question, Valerie. So if I hear you correctly, you gave up a 6-figure income to do this with no guarantees of a 6-figure income.
Yes. It sounds crazy, okay. Right?
That's crazy. All right. So now tell me some of the fears that you had when you got, I guess, certainty, right? We'll call it that. You have every 2 weeks, you're going to get a certain amount of money deposited in the bank account. And if you're giving up six figures, I'm assuming it's anywhere from 8 to 10 grand a month that you were giving up working there. That's a guaranteed, what they call guaranteed, saying the quotes, income. To go over to something that had no guarantee. So tell me, and again, what were some of the fears that you had, Valerie, that was like, man, I don't know if I can do this. What are some of the things you thought about? And then tell me how you were able to overcome some of those fears.
Yeah, absolutely. I had tons of fears. I mean, one fear was, oh my God, we got bills to pay. How are we going to continue to live in this house that we just bought just on, one salary? Like we built, our life based on the two salaries. So that was for sure one fear. The other fear was, my husband literally putting all this faith in me, believing in me so much, where he's confident that no, we're going to be okay. I will take majority of the stuff on so that, you can build this business and figure it out. So that was another fear of just, I don't want to be, a disappointment. I don't want to let him down, let our boys down. Like I want to be able to, live up to these expectations and, be able to provide, as well for the family, right? It's a partnership. So I didn't want it to all fall on him. So that was a fear. I had a fear of, this is something new. Like I didn't really know anything about life insurance or the industry, financial services. Like I'm far from it. Like I was over here more in like, hospitality, customer service, like that type of stuff, not really in financial services. So it just, that was new for me. Like I never had a problem switching industries and learning something new, but it was still scary just knowing that, it is going to be a learning curve and I am going to have to take the time to understand the products and know what I'm talking about. So people actually, trust me to write their policy. So that was another fear. But yeah, it's fear is actually, I have three responses to fear, right? I think the first is you have to ask yourself, what's the alternative? So for me, it was like, literally, Val, what is the alternative here? Like you could go get another 9 to 5, sure. In fact, I think I did actually set up an interview and then I changed my mind at the last minute. But getting another job, it wasn't going to be a problem for me. What was going to be the issue was what happens when I get there and it's the same thing all over again. Like, am I really solving the problem here? You know what I mean? Reporting to someone else, not being able to have that time with my family, my newborn baby, like it wasn't going to work. So you have to ask yourself, what is the alternative? Like when you have an agent that's scared to, pick up the phone to dial, what's the alternative? What else are you going to do? Go sit around watching TV? You made an appointment, go to that appointment, knock on that door. What's the alternative? You're going to go back home and tell your husband or your wife you just couldn't do it? Like, why not? Like, just do it. Like, what is the alternative? My second response is, we're not running into buildings trying to, burning buildings trying to save babies. We're not jumping in the line of fire, right? All we're doing is, writing a policy to help someone get coverage. So in sales, that fear is really just a fear of rejection. And the thing with rejection is we have to get over ourselves. These people don't know us personally, so we shouldn't be afraid of them rejecting us. In reality, they're really just rejecting the idea of spending money. So you just kind of need to get around that part. And my answer to that is kill them with kindness. Like when I have someone that, hangs up the phone on me when I'm trying to call them to make an appointment or, close the deal, I'm calling you right back and I'm going to be even sweeter than I was the first time, hey, Ms. Dolores, I think we accidentally got disconnected, like just kill them with kindness. People, I think they find it hard to continue to be an asshole. And excuse me, am I allowed to curse on here?
It's all good. Keep going.
Okay. I think they, when someone is so kind, it's hard to continue to be mean, to that person. Even if it isn't the right time for them to buy insurance, it's not a no, it's a not yet. So I would say that second response is just, get over yourself and realize that fear is just a fear of rejection and you can kill that with kindness and it's not personal. Don't take it personal. And then my third response is don't be so afraid that you miss out on someone else's blessing. And I'm going to say it again. Don't be so afraid that you miss out on being someone else's blessing. This is a big deal. Insurance is important. There's so many people out there that need life insurance, don't have it. And if you don't pick up the phone to call them to make an appointment after they filled out a form looking for insurance, or if you don't show up to that appointment because you are so afraid, this could be a family that loses their mom the next day and now has no way to bury her. You know what I mean? So don't let fear grab hold of you so hard that you miss out on blessing someone else's family. I pray every day that my family and I are a blessing to other people, so I lose the right to be afraid.
That is well said, Valerie. Did y'all hear that? Don't be afraid don't be so afraid that you miss out on being a blessing to someone else. And she said, I pray every day that God uses me so I lose the right. Right? I lose the right. I no longer have a right to sit at home and not help, and not serve, and not go be a blessing to someone else. And I think that's amazing, Valerie, because when you say that, it just reminds me of every time I look and I think of like things that are happening in people's lives and I watch what's going on. Every time someone prayed, God always answered it by sending a person. So when you go and see somebody, Valerie, or you pick up that phone or you go through the rejection, you literally are the answer. You're the one that God is using to be an answer to someone's prayer. So I love the way that you did that in regards to overcoming fear. And it sounds like to me, Valerie, one of the ways you overcame fear is taking your eyes off yourself and you were others focused instead of Valerie focused. Is that a fair assessment?
That is completely fair. Like when I go into, the business for the day, it's not about me anymore. I have to, check my attitude, come with a positive attitude, and realize that I'm not making a sale. I'm helping a family.
Right. Well said. Well said. All right, let's dive a little deeper. This is getting good. We only, 14 minutes in. Let's go. Let's go. All right. So tell us about, I know we have our big events. We just came back from a View from the Edge. But your first event, right? When you went to your first event, were you afraid of that? What were some fears that you had to overcome? And then also tell us about the View and what you're looking forward to in Miami. So I kind of got that all bundled up if you want to tackle that together.
Yeah, of course. So my first event, it was NatCon 2021. So I don't want to say afraid. I was unsure of what to expect. I've been to business conferences before, so I somewhat knew like, okay, they have keynotes, they have sessions. Like I got the gist of it. I just didn't know what the vibe and the tone was going to be. So that was new for me, but it was definitely exciting. And I'm so glad that I went. It was well worth the investment. I mean, more than the investment because of just all the value that I got back. A lot of the times I think with conferences, we tend to think that it's going to be like just some boring lecture, just about this product and that product and just going really into the weeds of insurance. But it's actually more about, self-development and, building a business. And it was everything that I needed to hear. And that's what, we say about conferences. You never know when someone is going to say something that you needed to hear. And so it's amazing. I was there and the whole time I was thinking, oh my God, I wish Brandon was here. I wish he heard that. Like I was taking notes. And when I got back home, I was so fired up. Like I got him fired up and he wasn't even there. So it was such a great thing. And then I actually, from that moment, I told myself, okay, the next conference, I'm going to make sure that I bring him, if not him, at least one person, which I kept that promise because then we went to Denver. What was it, last month? Had a great time. I was able to bring one of our up and coming agents with me as well. And I think he got a lot of value out of A View from the Edge as well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, next question. Do you have your ticket for Miami?
I do. Brandon and I both have our tickets and we are working on getting all of our team there. So as of right now, we're hoping to have at least 10, including us. So that's the goal. That's what we're going for.
Nice. I love it. I love it. That's good stuff. All right. So let's dig a little deeper. Okay. So one of the things that I think is important is we all have fear. So when you got your first, because I remember we talked about this and you were talking about ordering leads and you had, you had asked me some questions of uncertainty and you were like, well, Marcus, should I? Like, how do you know it's going to work? And so talk to them about when you first started getting going in the business and ordering leads. What were some of those fears that you actually had, Valerie? And then tell me again how you overcame
The fear of spending money for a piece of paper. I
it.
was afraid. Yeah, I did not like the idea of buying leads. And then I was like, I get it. Like, you do have to invest in your business. And even then, it still took me some time to come around. It was baby steps, right? Like, I got a small little GMR going and, doing a couple instant purchases here and there. But no, I have definitely, as I grow more into my own and into this business, I definitely realize like that's something you cannot be afraid to do. And something that I learned recently from another mentor was that, money is a tool. You have to use it. Like, don't be so greedy that you are strangling your dollar. Like, use it to your advantage. And so literally just putting money back into the business is how you're going to see, exponential growth.
Absolutely. And I remember that conversation. And you were like, Marcus, how much should I? And I said, well, depends on where you're at cash flow wise, but here's what I recommend. I recommend starting at around 250. And then you were blessed in the fact that you had a manager that would match you. So that's the other thing, is that when you know that you have a certain amount and then someone's going to invest in you, they believe in you. But when that happened, that also makes you want to work a little harder because you didn't want to waste someone else's money? Or what was your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. Knowing that I had, both you and Kyle, helping me out, in that regard, to match me. It's like, okay, these guys believe in me, so I need to also, one, be able to, match what they're willing to put into me. But then two, I'm going to work the heck out of these leads. Like, I'm going to get every last red cent that I can. And not even looking at it like that, but honestly, just making sure that I try and help every single person, for the lead that I get. Absolutely. So I'm the type of person I'm going to follow up, like until I get, to the end. Like, we are going to come to Jesus, is this a hard yes or a hard no? Like, which one is it? So no. And as far as like the types of leads, I was working them all. Like, I know when you start out, you have your agents start on, some older leads, because you don't necessarily, you want them to have the volume, and, you want them to get comfortable before they move up to, some of the more expensive ones. But for me, it didn't matter. I was just like, I don't care if it's an old lead, it's still someone to talk to. So.
Absolutely. All right. Now, the agents got the leads. They hear what Valerie's saying. They see it's working for Valerie. They see it's working for Marcus. Now they're at that point where they're calling the leads. They get appointments. So you also had some fear about the appointments and going to see people. Why don't you share some of your fears there that you had with me? And I don't know if it was a fear, but the concerns that you had. And I know Brandion voiced it on our first conversation. So if you want to share that with some of the people, because I know everybody had, and I just want to try to be as transparent as possible. Tell them what you were concerned about. Like, hey, I booked this appointment. Now what?
Yeah. So his fear was, and, he's very protective of me. So his fear was sending me into, just random homes. Being a woman, just especially, in this day and age, you just never know. So that was a fear of ours of, especially when we heard the phrase door knocking, we didn't know exactly what that meant. Like, we thought it was just literally like, you walk an entire neighborhood and just door knock, not realizing that it was, door knock the leads that you have. But yeah, so that was his fear for me. And so he, we ended up putting mace on my keychain and, some other things, but yeah, that was definitely his fear. And then my fear wasn't really the idea of like approaching someone in person or, having the appointment, because I've done sales. I've actually done door-to-door sales, but that was from a business to business standpoint. But with this, it was more so afraid of what I was going to see on the inside of the house. And I'll give you an example. So my very first appointment that I booked, Kyle came to town and he came with me on this appointment. And the side of town we were on wasn't the prettiest. The house that we went to was not the prettiest. And so I was more so afraid of like, oh my God, are we actually going in here? But look, it was only going to end one of two ways, right? I was either going to walk out of there having helped the person and put a policy in place, or I was going to walk out with a great story to tell about my first appointment. So it was a win-win either way. But yeah, it just so happens this guy, he was a vet and he had both of his legs amputated. He didn't want to get out of bed when we walked in the house to come and talk to us. So it just, yeah, it was all bad, but it was a great first experience.
Absolutely. And you have had those experiences. And it's funny because I love the way you said it. It's kind of like when you did the first thing you said, the three things that you do when it comes to fear, and you ask, what's the alternative? It sounds like you did that same thing here. I'm either going to make a sale or I'm going to have a great story, or I could have both.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were already there. It was like, we're going in. Like, we're not turning around for what? Like, no, we're going in.
Got it. Okay. All right. And then on my last question, Valerie, okay. You got a new agent on your team. They're watching this YouTube video of you lighting them up, talking about fear. Everybody deals with it. Everybody wrestles with it. What do you want to say? Let's say you and that new agent are sitting down, getting a cup of coffee, getting some tea or whatever. What would you say to that new agent that's wrestling with fear to help them keep going?
I would tell them, if you really want to see a change, because let's be real, we all get into this because we want something different. Something that we're doing isn't working, hasn't been working, or we want more, whatever it is, you want something a little bit different than what you currently have. And if you want that, you're going to have to do something a little different to get a different result. Like, we all know that, right? So you can't be so afraid that you don't even try. Like, give it a try. That was the biggest part of going into this, because there were definitely times, Marcus, where I wanted to quit, especially my first year in. It was some hard days, driving across Georgia to, have someone not show up, or, to have someone, that they want insurance but have all these health issues and just can't get approved. So now I done drove over here and I couldn't even help you. Like, right. It happens. Those days happen. And there were definitely times where, I called Brandion and he could hear it all over my voice that I wanted to quit. But luckily I, have him as a support. So he was there to build me up. But those days happen. And I mean, you really have to just, kind of take a step back, know that it's going to happen, but you have to at least give it time to work. So that was our biggest thing, was we have to give it at least a year. You know what I mean? No great business, nothing great is built overnight. It takes time. And so I think, that's what I would tell, any agent, not just my agents, that are afraid of, getting started, is, take it day by day. Don't give up, find yourself a good support system, whether that's, your spouse, your children, or your upline, or someone else, in the alliance, like whoever it is, just find that support for yourself, because we all do need that at times, and you will need that going through this. But knowing that you have that is what's going to make it easier each and every day, as you continue to learn and grow.
Absolutely. That was well said. Thank you for jumping on those nuggets. I'm going to do the three things that you said. For those who are taking notes, I think this is big to write down. Overcoming fear, she said, I asked three questions. I go through it three ways. Number one was, what's the alternative? So I wrote that down as a note. And then number two is I wrote like realistic expectations. That was the example you gave of the firefighter. And then fear of rejection, right? Really, they're just rejecting not necessarily us or the fact that they don't want to spend any money. Okay. And then number three is, I love this one. It says, don't be so afraid that you miss out on being someone else's blessing. So Valerie takes her eyes off of herself and then goes to serve others. And that's how you overcome fears. Am I hearing you correctly, Valerie?
That is absolutely right. And I can't stress that last one enough. Like, I talked with someone yesterday who actually told me that her dad passed out in the kitchen. That was why she had an interest in insurance. And he was gone, like almost gone, for about 15 minutes. And it scared the mess out of her. She has 3 kids, and she was like, she don't want her 3 kids to have to go through that and be wondering, oh my God, did mom have insurance? And so I was just so grateful that I had, even reached out to her to help her. But there's so many more like that.
Right. Thank you, Valerie, for sharing. Those were awesome nuggets. And I am looking forward to us being in New Zealand together.